Hello crafters and welcome back to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel. My name is Deepa from DeeZinesByD and today I have a card to share with you featuring products from Spellbinders. Now these products are from the Floral Reflections collection and I'm going to be using them today to make a shaker card. So let's go ahead and take a look at the products we'll be using. So we'll start off by using the Glimmering Just For You foil plate and coordinating dies. You can see there's also two small sentiments that come with it along with banner dies. And then we're also going to be using the Essentials Floral Reflection dies. You can see you get 7 dies with this in varying sizes. So I'm going to be starting off with a white card panel size slightly smaller than 5 by 7 inches. So I think I've got it at 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And I'm going to be using some OXIDE inks to do some ink blending. So I'm starting off with some peacock feathers just in the center there. I really wanted to make this panel to look more of like a teal or an aqua type color to go with the color scheme and the colors of the flowers that I'm going to be using for this card. I'm adding some pine needles to this. Now you can see that the pine needles has more of a green tone and it doesn't really look like they blend too well together, but I wouldn't worry about that because I'm going to go over it again with some of the peacock feathers just to blend out that green and make it have a bit more of a teal tone to it. So as you can see, I'm just adding the ink to the top and bottom half of the panel here, and I'm going back over it with the peacock feathers. Now I'm going to come in with some Uncharted Mariner on the very top and the very bottom of this panel. And I'm really just wanting to darken up the edges of this card. So again, I'm blending it out with the peacock feathers, and then I'm adding more Uncharted Mariner to the bottom edge now, and all I'm doing is darkening that up and going back over with the last color. So I just went over again with pine needles just to blend everything out. Now I'm adding more of the Uncharted Mariner to the left and the right sides of the panel, so the long sides of the panel as well. And that's what it ends up looking like. I kind of figured that I wanted to make the edges just a little bit darker, and I always find that black soot works perfectly for that. So I'm grabbing my black soot, and you can see I've dabbed off most of the ink to begin with, and then I'm just blending in from the edge. So the darkest part of the ink is right at the edge of your panel, and then it just kind of fades into the center. And we'll continue to do that around each of the 4 edges of this panel until I get the look that I like. Now, do keep in mind that, right now the blending looks a little rough, but as it dries, it will even out just a little bit, especially for the oxide inks. They tend to have more of an even tone once they're dry. Now, I'm going to add some splatter and activate the reactive feature of the oxide inks. I just basically took some water, splattered it on, and dried it off with a dry towel there. Now, moving on, I want to go ahead and take a look at these essential dyes. Now, I've noticed that Spellbinders has been doing this now. They add this little plastic, I guess you would call it like part of the packaging, the backing there, and it just makes it so much easier to take your dyes off and put them back on without ripping the cardstock packaging that comes with it. Now, I'm grabbing the 2 second largest sizes, so if you're counting inwards from the dies, starting from 1, this would be die 2 and 3. And I'm lining them up to create a frame. I'm going to stick them together using some low-tack tape, or in my case, washi tape. I'm just going to attach them on 2 sides so that I can take this and put it on top of my, this is actually some rose gold mirror cardstock. You can use any type of cardstock you want. And I'll just cut that out to create the frame for my shaker window. So you can see this sort of pops out nicely, and because I've taped those 2 dies together, it has a nice uniform shape to it. Now I'm going to take the smallest die of those 2 dies we've taped together, the inner die, and I'm going to position this on my panel. Now I've got the foil plate here that I'm going to be using on this card just to help me position the window where I want it. So it's not exactly in the center of the panel, it's a little bit towards the top. And so I've cut that out with my die cutting machine. And what I have left to do is to create the actual window. So I've got some acetate here, and I'm just going to cut it down to a little bit larger than that opening. So I'm really just taking that die cut piece that we've cut out and using it as a guide to just cut the right size of acetate. It just needs to be a little bit larger to create our window. Now I'm just using some Tombow Mono Dot Runner. And I'm just going to put it all along the edge on the back of that panel. And then just a little bit on the four corners of it, because this is a rectangular piece of acetate. I'll attach that to create my window. And then I'm going to attach the mirror frame that we cut out. And I'm just attaching that with some Barely Arts liquid glue. Now, I like to use the liquid glue because this frame has like a lot of curves and edges, and the liquid glue helps you really line it up so that you're not seeing any of the white from the inked up panel underneath. So once I've got that adhered nice and well, I can go ahead and move on to my next step, which is to create the, I guess you would call it the space in which you're going to put your embellishments. So you can kind of call it like a well. You're just taking some foam tape here. I only have black tape. It probably would have been better to use the white because it would blend in more with the white cardstock panel. And I'm just creating a well here. So I'm using 6 pieces of this foam tape. And I normally would double up my tape because of the embellishments that I tend to put in my shakers. I'm going to be using SEQUINS from Spellbinders, and they actually have a flatter nature to them, so I don't actually need to double up my foam here. One layer is good enough for this. And you will notice when I do put my shaker together, some people do use anti-static powder to stop the sequins from sticking to the edges, but I don't do that because I kind of like when the sequins stick to the edges because it shows even when you stand your card up. So you can still kind of see the sequins, you know, whether the card is flat or standing up. So anyways, we'll move on to our foiling. I'm taking a white piece of cardstock and some blush foil here, and I'm just simply foiling that beautiful floral plate that comes with the Glimmering for You Glimmer plate set. I'm using the coordinating die to cut out this piece here, and it's pretty simple to line up. And then you can see that I had a little bit of overfoiling, but it really wasn't anything to worry about because I did use a coordinating die to cut it out. Now, since I have my Glimmer machine all nice and warm, I'm going to go ahead and glimmer my sentiment. So I'm taking the 2 small sentiment strips that come with the set, and I'm foiling both of those separately with the same colored foil. Again, this is blush foil. And I'm foiling it on some black cardstock. Now, I always use a piece of tape to kind of just adhere the plate to the foil and the foil to the cardstock. And it just makes it easier for me to make sure nothing's shifting when I run it through my die cutting machine. Now that I've got those nicely foiled, I'll go ahead and use the coordinating small banner die without the little flags at the end to cut out both of these pieces. I'll just put those to the side, and now I'll work on coloring my floral image here. And I'm just using some Copic Chows in V17, EO2, RV95, YG11, and G21. And I'm basically using the purple for the inner portions of my petals, which would be the darkest part. I'm using a flicking motion to create the striations on the petals and to give a more natural look. And then I'm coming in with the darker peach color, and then I will blend that out with the lighter peach color. And once I've done all of this blending, it tends to lighten up that purple. So I'll go back in with the purple alcohol marker and I'll just darken that up just a little bit. And I'll do that for all of the petals, keeping in mind that I want to put the purple more where I would see the shadows and try to keep a bit of white where all the highlights would be. So I'm really not doing anything too fancy with my coloring here. And I'm mainly using this blend on the center flower there, the main focal point flower of this bunch here. And then you've got 3 other little flowers there. And I'm basically going to add more of the purple in there than the other 2 colors, and then just kind of lightly blend it out without the flicking pattern, because since it has a smaller area, you're not really going to see too much of a flicking pattern if you were to do that here. Now, I really like this Glimmer set, and I've noticed lately Spellbinders has been coming out with more of these sets where there's larger images. That way you don't have to foil so many little pieces. You can foil one large image and then just spend your time coloring it in. So now I'm coming in with my greens for the leaves. And again, I'm not doing anything too complicated. The leaves they have a smaller area than that largest flower. So all I'm really doing is adding the darkest color near the base of the leaves, and then I'm just blending it out a little bit with the lighter green color. And that's my image pretty much complete. Okay, so now that that's done, I've gone ahead and cut out a 5 by 7 inch white card base, and I'm removing the release paper from the foam tape on the back of my panel. And I'm only removing like the bottom 2/3 of this. And I'm doing that because I want to create like a pocket so that I can kind of just insert my sequins in the top. So I'm not going to remove the release paper at the top yet. I'll just go ahead and design the front of my card, and then we'll add the sequins at the end. So I've got these foam squares here. I really love these foam squares. They have a good bit of dimension. They're not too thick, not too thin, and they have two sizes to them. So they're larger squares and smaller squares. The larger squares for this project come in handy for that large floral image. And then the smaller squares fit perfectly on the back of these little banner sentiment pieces. They're so perfect, like they just fill the area and you can't see them on either side of the black cardstock, so it works perfectly. I know that these also come in a black option as well, so that would also work well with this considering the cardstock I'm using is black. So we've got a lot of color in the background there, and I'm really just wanting to keep this design pretty simple, especially because we have the shaker element as well. Now I'm taking those two sentiments and just adding it to the top right hand side of this card, just for you with love. You could use one sentiment, both sentiments, or just, one or the other. It's completely up to you. Now that I've got the front pretty much designed, I'm going to go ahead and add my shaker bits. Now I'm using these BISQUE OPALESCENT SEQUINS by Spellbinders. It came out like maybe mid-year this year. And I thought that they had a nice neutral tone, but they still also had a nice iridescent shine to kind of add a little bit of pizzazz to this card. So I'm adding some in here, and then I'm holding the top and shaking it to see if I've got enough. I don't think I do. I want to add a bit more. I'm adding quite a bit in here actually, and you can see there's still a lot of these sequins left in the bag. So you really get a lot in this little pack of sequins. And I'm just scooping it in there, and once I think I have enough, which I think I do now, I will then go ahead and remove the release paper from those last few pieces of foam tape. Then all I have to do is kind of tap it, make sure all those pieces are in the window, and seal it. And then I can just kind of move it around, make sure those sequins are where I want it. And as I said before, I don't add the anti-static powder. You can see it sticking to certain edges, but that's completely fine with me. That's the look I wanted to go for, because I want to see those sequins even when I kind of like stand the card up and maybe put it on display. So now to finish this off, I'm adding some Pinkfresh Studio Clear Drop Iridescent embellishments. These, again, I kept them clear here because I didn't want to take away too much from the shaker bits in the center of the window. And that's pretty much it for this card. So I hope you guys have been inspired to create something similar yourself. All of the products that I've used today are linked in the description below. Don't forget to check out the ScrapbookPal store for all of these products from Spellbinders. And I do hope that you guys have a great holiday coming up, and I hope that you're able to do some shopping while you're off. Do feel free to like and subscribe to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.